Hello and welcome to Views on News. I'm Jawad Tehami. Pakistan's caretaker Prime Minister Mr. Anwarul Haqqaqar is in New York to attend the 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly. On the sidelines of this particular session, he held a meeting with the IMF chief, Ms. Kristalina Georgieva, and the IMF chief said that she had a good meeting with the Prime Minister. She has also urged Pakistan to collect more taxes from the wealthy and protect the poor. And she has also said that we have agreed on the vital need for strong policies for stability, fostering sustainable and inclusive growth, prioritizing revenue collection and protection of the most vulnerable. Likewise, we have seen the Prime Minister thanking the IMF chief for IMF's approval of the $3 billion standby arrangement. He has also briefed the IMF chief regarding the measures and the steps taken by the government to stabilize and revive the country's economy, which actually aim at creating a stable and conducive environment for inclusive economic growth and attracting investment. The IMF chief has appreciated the steps taken by the government of Pakistan and also assured of the IMF's continued engagement with Pakistan as well. We'll also be discussing the prospects which are related to the Special Investment Facilitation Council. Also, we'll be taking up for analysis and discussion the latest Asian Development Bank's report. In other major development, we have seen a trend in the recent days that the value of the Pakistani rupee has appreciated against the dollar also. For that, we are honored to have been joined in the studio by Mr. Faad, Waheed, the Senior Vice President, Islamabad Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Mr. Faad, thank you very much for taking time out for Views on News tonight. We really appreciate that. And also, in the studio, we are honored to have been joined by Dr. Khalid Waleed. He is Senior Economist associated with Sustainable Development Policy Institute. Dr. Khalid, thank you very much for your time, also for being with us on Views on News tonight. We really appreciate that. Let me begin the discussion with you, Mr. Faad. When we talk about the four major points of the IMF chief, she said, she talked about in the meeting with the caretaker Prime Minister, the first and the foremost, taxing the wealthier and protecting the poor. Now, taxing the rich, what are the benefits associated with that, and how crucial do you think that one is?
Well, I don't think it's going to be bringing any more benefits to the tax regimes or the tax revenues, because we've seen this, and it has been a habit of Pakistan's revenue department that they're heavily taxing the taxed already. So what we need at this point is broadening the tax net. We're already being taxed in the 35 to 43% tax range. This is the highest that you can go for. And at this point, protecting the poor is a very right decision and rightly said. But at the same time, how long do you think, or the government thinks, they don't have to ponder over this part, that they have to understand that there's a certain limit to it. They have to stop taxing the taxed already, and they have to increase and broaden the tax net. Once that happens, automatically you'll get more tax inflows, and that's where there's more documentation and there's more people coming to the tax net. So I don't think, and I disagree with it, but at the same time I would say it's a healthy discussion. It can always be open, and we can find new avenues to discuss these on different levels.
So, but Ms. Kristalina Georgieva says that she believes this is in line with what people in Pakistan would like to see for the country.
Well, people of Pakistan would love to see Pakistan prosper and actually hit the $9 trillion rupee mark for the revenue. But I don't think it's going to be possible like this. There has to be certain consultation done with the business stakeholders, especially from the chambers of commerce. I would recommend, and they can sit down and chalk out a proper plan. Instead of just imposing these taxes and taxing the taxed already. So if someone's already in the tax bracket of 40 or 43%, what is he going to do? If is he doing a service? So that's something it has to be consulted with.
Right, Dr. Khalid, what's your opinion regarding that idea? What's the thought or the wisdom behind that?
Well, income or wealth redistribution is a fundamental of economic welfare. We should look into that. Taxing the rich, giving the tax money to the poor, it will make them productive if it is making them productive. But if it is not making them productive, then I think slowing the fast runners in terms of taxing the businesses which are already burdened, as rightly mentioned by him, it will not serve economy good in the sustainable manner. So what we need to do, we need to have efficient taxation system, broadening the tax net, and then making this production cycle productive and efficient, so that productivity of whole economic system increases and tax incidence, which is already very high on the businessman and the commercial activities, it can be made more efficient and more productive. So agreeing to that the IMF chief's statement that Pakistan should increase the tax revenue by taxing or broadening the tax net and giving this wealth to the poor, so that they would become more productive and earn dollars in terms of foreign exchange, so that our economy become more efficient and more dollars are flowing into the country and dollar rate drops and everything settle in, you know.
Right. Now, there are 4 different points they have agreed upon. The one relates to prioritizing the revenue collection. When you talk about broadening the tax base, so does it happen to be only one dimension? If yes, what are the other dimensions when it comes to prioritizing the revenue collection?
Well, broadening the tax net is a very difficult sort of job in terms of Pakistan, because Pakistan's economy is not that much formal economy. It has a very huge portion of informal economy as well. So what we need to do is we need to document our economy first, and coupled with tax reforms and broadening the tax base, so that more and more informal businesses and informal commercial activities are brought into the tax net, and tax net is broadened and tax revenue has increased. It will also increase the productivity and efficiency of the economy. So we would be more competitive, we would be more efficient, we would be earning more and more dollars and foreign exchange, so that our economic indicator starts to improve. But it would not improve if we continue to slow our fast runners and providing subsidies to, I would say, blanket subsidies to everyone on expense of a taxpayer. So what we need to do, broaden the tax net, provide subsidies to the most vulnerable communities, use these taxes, revenues for productive activities, generate revenue, generate foreign exchange.
So other than broadening the tax base, what are the ideal sources of prioritizing or generating the revenue from?
Well, first
and
is,
especially when we talk specifically about Pakistan's case in these current circumstances.
well, first is to bring informal economy into the formal net. Second is to tax agriculture sector in a way that it does not impact the vulnerable farmers. And third is that broaden the tax net, so that the intensity or tax rate is decreased and it is divided across the economy. And third is that we need to have simplify our tax system, so that more and more persons and more businesses, they become filers, incentivize the filers, not just in terms of monetary terms, but in terms of convenience and in terms of different canons that are associated with equity, that are associated with uniformity, and that are associated with easiness of tax system. So
let me take Mr. Faad's view regarding this, bringing the informal economy in, making it formal. So
well, that's very important. I would say, and I would suggest, we have to find an efficient way out of it. Pakistan is been a victim. The state itself has been a victim of not, collecting a lot of taxes. So I would suggest we have to come out with new unconventional ways of actually, bringing all these people into the tax net. And we have to actually, there's one easy way to eliminate everything, and that's, why have we created this non-filer status? There's nothing as a non-filer. Not filing tax is a crime. So we have to actually take that with iron hands. We have to actually bring those people into the tax net so they start paying taxes. We found a way out for them. They can still remain in the gray economy. So once that policy ends and there's only filer status that's recognizable, that's the only way we can go forward. You shouldn't be able to open a bank account if you're not a filer. Shouldn't be able to buy a car or lease a car if you're not a filer. So if that continues, that will actually broaden the tax net itself, and that's something that's going to bring everyone into documentation itself. So the grey economy is going to slowly, mellow down that way.
Of course, everybody should be brought into the tax net, right? So there shouldn't be a concept of being a non-filer, right?
Yeah.
But there is a substantial amount of fine that is taken from from a person who happens to be a non-filer. Don't you think that also adds to the revenue?
No, that's actually, declining the revenue in the long term, because at the end of the year, the person who's not paying his income taxes as prescribed, he's actually getting out of it. And every year he's making that money into the grey economy, and he's increasing that grey economy every year. It's just a cascading effect of money. So every year when money devalues, or the money appreciates, or inflation hits, that is actually taken into account. So a person earning 100 rupees today is going to be earning maybe 200 next year. So he's not paying tax on that 200, but whatever he's buying, he's only giving 0.3% or 6% of that and getting away with it.
Why would somebody prefer to be a non-filer at the same time paying the fine or the penalty against it, rather than becoming a filer and getting the benefits associated with it?
See, there's an entire regime behind this. There's an entire thinking process behind it. So this ex-person thinks, he's not paying taxes properly, but then again, he prefers to stay in the non-filer status because he's not documented, and when he's not documented, he's not being investigated properly. His income is not being shown properly, so he's not actually filing everything rightly. So he can hide all these whatever he's into the business, he can hide all these kinds of income streams that he has, and the government is let's say left without a change on this. So that is something he's taking pride in, because it's not even fair for the businessman to do business in like that way.
So that makes him happily pay the fines and the penalties.
Yeah, there's no level playing field for them then. If I am paying sale tax every month.
The question arises that if the penalty couldn't push those people to become the filers, so what else is required in order to make them become a filer and broaden the tax base?
There's only one way out of it. I said, we have to take it with iron hands. The revenue streams have to be done properly. The law enforcement agencies, the tax enforcement agencies have to come in and actually make a statement, okay, no more non-filer status. So if you're a filer, only then you're allowed to have a cell phone, have a bank account. It happens everywhere in the world. If you're not a filer of any country, if you're residing there, you're not able to lease a car, since if you don't have a tax return, you cannot even apply for a loan. And even if you understand, people, if you need a visa, if you're applying a visa anywhere from Pakistan, you need a tax return. So if you don't have a tax return, and if you don't have a healthy tax return, you don't get a visa to travel anywhere. So that's the main concept behind it.
Right, Dr. Khalid, what's your understanding? What's the psyche behind this, of being continue to be a non-filer, rather being happy in paying the penalty and the fines rather than becoming a filer? And what's required to deal with that?
Well, there could be multiple answers to this. First is that having so much tax rate, which is actually incentivizing that you are not a filer or you are not paying the tax, because it is incentivizing the non-filers or non-paying of the taxes. Second is that the informal economy. Third is that rightly mentioned that there are some illegal means that you need to hide so that you are not non-filers. Fourth is that the tax system, although it is simplified, still it is complex for multiple sectors of the society.
So what's ideally required to make the tax system as simplified as it could be easier for a common man to understand?
Well, first of all, I think we need structural kind of reforms so that common people or common businessmen, they see their tax money going into the economy and making it better for their businesses as well. So they get an ownership that their tax money is being used in a productive way and efficient way, and their economy is booming. Second is that make the tax system equitable, no type of injustice in terms of like just Adam Smith, he gave them different canons of taxation. One of the taxation was taxation of economy. The second was canon of equity, which means that there should be equity in the tax regime, and every consumer or every businessman or every commercial activity, they should feel that there is a justice going on in tax regime. So what we need to do is bring clarity to the tax regime, make it equal for everyone. Everyone is paying taxes. Rightly mentioned that if everyone can get CNIC number, why cannot they get the NTN number? This should be mandatory as well, linked with Nadra's system, linked with the registration system, so that everyone could join hand and everyone could become part of this.
So what do you
formal
mean?
economy.
Could you shed a little bit more light regarding when you talk about making it equal for everybody?
I mean,
what does that mean?
One perspective of it to understand is that they are paying equal tax. No, equity means that they consider themselves as a part of economy, and what share they are contributing to the economy, and they are taxed according to that share as well. So this is not about taxing them equally in terms of monetary terms. It means that tax them according to their share in the economy and what is their share, so that the system get more and more efficient in that way.
So how to address if the penalty and the fines couldn't make the people become a filer? How to address this problem? How to bring in people in the tax base?
Well, first is to sort of create an awareness that your tax money is being utilized for your healthy businesses and business environment. If this is achieved, this would actually attract the businessmen and commercial activities, so they become the part of this tax regime and tax system. Second is that make the process or make the filing system more simpler and more business or commercial friendly, so more and more commercial entities become filers.
So what about having a more efficient monitoring system?
Yeah. A monitoring system is also important, because if a taxpayer sees that non-taxpayers are being fined or being brought to justice, they would consider this would provide them a satisfaction level as well. So they would see that non-filer are not being incentivized, so it would create them more opportunity for being filer and more incentive for being filer.
Right, Mr. Faad, now informal economy and the formal economy. So when we talk about informal economy, is there any sort of identification when we talk about the sector-wise identification that come under the ambit of informal economy, that if could be brought into formal economy that could reap dividends?
Well, there's no specific definition of informal economy except for the fact it doesn't pay taxes. So any place or any business or any transaction going through, if it's untaxed or someone is reaping the benefits out of monetary benefits out of it, it's definitely in the gray economy. And since Pakistan, we have a very low literacy rate at this point, and I think that's some place that we really need to address. And that way we can even simplify the tax regimes. People will understand it more easily, and when it's simplified, people will file more taxes. But at the same time, coming back to the point, how do we get back to it? How do you identify this gray economy? We identify it because whenever we're taking into chain any kind of transaction, every person it goes through has to be taxed. And if he's not in the tax system, that's where the monitoring come in. So if the monitoring is done right, everybody in the cycle would be taxed. So let's say, if there's a manufacturer, if he's going to issue an invoice to an X person, he should not be issuing an invoice to a person who's not registered. And the person who has the money to buy all this, but he's not registered with the tax authorities, when he's discouraged from buying all this, it's definitely going to create a new awareness. But this is the place where Pakistan lacks, that as collective Pakistani nation, we really need to work together on this, and we need to understand this is going to benefit our own economy. Again, the discussion was spending money on nation's pride, and Pakistani people, they have to understand, they really have to take ownership of this tax money. This is their tax money. So it's really against appreciation versus harassment. So when you're paying taxes, you should be appreciated more than being called something or hidden below the belt by a revenue streamer. So that's where we really have to draw the line. where the authorities have to understand, these are our taxpayers, we have to, respect them, we have to appreciate them, and that can create a little healthy, positive image of the authority. At the same time with the businessman. So the businessmen actually feel, the authorities taking undue advantage of their position.
So does investment also play, or does investment happen to be one of the major sources of prioritizing revenue collection?
Well, investment is going to be prioritized only then when businessman is going to be happy with the tax system. So if I don't feel safe enough for investing into a position where I'm going to be, stuck up with the bureaucracy, and they're going to stop all my, working going through, simply put, is going to be investment is going to be only friendly when there's no objection,
so
policy.
what are the main things an investor, particularly when we talk about foreign investor investing into Pakistan, looks into? What does he or she scrutinize about before investing the money?
The first thing an investor is going to look into a country is political stability. That's something, highly of importance. And the second is going to be the economic stability of that country. And again, once he confirms all these two parts, he's going to go to the ease of doing business. So if we talk about Pakistan, there's a no objection certificate policy in Pakistan. So even if he's going into a zone, if an industrialist or a businessman is buying a piece of land in a zone where he has to operate his business, he's going to be waiting for NOCs from about 40 or 50 different, departments. So that has to be more simplified. If he's going into industry, it has to be automatically a no objection certificate zone.
So what about the idea of Special Investment Facilitation Council? It's going to provide that one window operation. Perhaps it is basically aimed at overcoming the problem that you just mentioned.
Yes. See, SIFC is a very good initiative. We have to see over the horizon as well. We have to actually understand, all these one-window projects that have been done in the past in the name of SEZs and, EZs, exporting EPZs. It was done there as well, but it wasn't really implemented. It wasn't really there. It was just the name of one window facility. Even today, people are just, going around into departments, getting their approvals and everything. So that has to be stopped. SIFC, I do believe, and I 100% agree on this, since it's backed by our army as well, it's done by our government as well. It's a harmonious place. It's an harmonious council. So I think, this is going to be a game changer. And I hope for Pakistan that, this is going to become a forum for investing. But at the same point, if this continues, the one window false image, it's going to bring it down again.
So Army's role when we talk about Special Investment Facilitation Council is aimed at ensuring the continuity of the policy and the action.
Yes. We still have to, see how long this policy is, what the timeline of this policy is. We recently heard it's 10-year policy, and if it's straightly done, if it's 10-year policy, trust me, it's going to it's going to do wonders for Pakistan economy, because not just international investors, the local businessman of Pakistan has a very good grip of this market. Everybody knows this is a very lucrative market. We're a growing population of 24 million people. So I think, it's going to be a game changer. But then again, we have to actually, give this confidence to our investor to invest into Pakistan and not overseas. At this point, people are holding on to the greenbacks at this point. But this crackdown has actually proven a very good and a very positive image of Pakistan, that the authorities are actually working. So if this is going to continue, the investor of Pakistan is going to be boosted up, and he's going to be thinking, okay, I'm in the right hands, and he's going to bring all the money he can. And trust me, when I talk about SIFC, this single module, this single council, if comes into play with the businessman, with the right stakeholders, this is going to be a game changer, because agriculture is something the world is looking at, and the last government has also given a very good policy on agriculture. So if it stays the same, the policy continues for 10 years, we can do wonders. We're growing olives in Pakistan, we're growing mangoes in Pakistan, we're growing all these potatoes, all this agriculture, the fertilizer zones, all of these are rich. And we have to understand it's going to all come down to food security of all the nations. The basic point that everybody is going to be running around is not just economy, it's going to be the agriculture. So I think if that continues for 10 years, being backed by the government, that's going to be amazing.
Later into the discussion, Dr. Khalid, what's required, what steps and measures required to make this very idea of Special Investment Facilitation Council more efficient and the idea of one window operation a success?
Well, I think what investor sees or what investor demand is integrity as well. I mean, if market has this very required level of integrity, it would attract investors. So what SIFC provide is sort of integrity to the market as well, which can boost the level of investment confidence and investment climate in Pakistan. Second thing is that if it can provide the one window facility, it can make this investment system or process of investment more integrated, so that investment is coming into the all throughout the supply chain of industry, and forward linkages and backward linkages are being built, horizontal integration and vertical integration is being achieved. It would do wonders in terms of attracting foreign investors, at the same time building the confidence of local investors as well, because in Pakistan ease of doing business is not at the par level. We need to have this kind of integrity going on in the system. SIFC can what SIFC can do, ensure the property rights, ensure the contract enforcements, so that integrity of this investment process can be reassured or ensured. So it would boost the confidence of investors and integrate the market in a sense that would be more lucrative for the foreign investors as well as the Pakistani or local investors as well.
Right, Mr. Faad already mentioned agriculture sector. Now there are five basic major sectors that come under the ambit of SIFC. It is going to basically focus upon, starting with agriculture. We also know that there was a Green Pakistan initiative also launched during the previous government. Also, what potential this particular sector when it comes to enhancing Pakistan's productivity in agriculture sector, and also in turn increasing the agricultural exports to the outer world remains here?
Well, just if I mention some of the statistics from Economic Survey of Pakistan, agriculture sector contributes about 19% in total GDP of Pakistan, but it contributes for almost 40% of total employment in Pakistan, which means that 40% of total labor force is contributing 19% to the GDP of Pakistan, which makes it sort of unproductive sector of the Pakistan. So investment coming into agriculture, which makes it more efficient, more modernized, more mechanized, it will take care of this unproductive or disguised kind of unemployment in the agriculture sector, and it would also ensure, he rightly mentioned, that food security that Pakistan needed and world needed, also coupled with providing input for the industrial sector in terms of raw materials, in terms of so that finished products are being made, and industrialization of agriculture sector and agriculture as an industry could flourish in Pakistan, because Pakistan's climate, Pakistan's land, Pakistan's atmosphere, it suits agriculture as well. So we can have these cash crops going on, we can earn revenues, not just exporting the raw materials, but also the finished products from the agriculture as well.
So when we talk about bringing in innovation into this agricultural sector, also the quality of the seeds, how crucial that one is, and how crucial is the research and development locally regarding increasing the quality of the seeds?
Well, quality of seeds matter, obviously. We need to indigenize or localize this process through R&D coming into the agricultural research facilities, so that we become self-sufficient in terms of producing or having these high quality yields. Another thing that is necessary for Pakistan's agriculture sector is to capacity build the farmer as well, because if farmer is more educated or more have more capacity, the farmer would take wise decisions in terms of productivity, in terms of efficiency, coupled with climate change, changing weathers, changing weather patterns, changing sowing and harvesting patterns. This would create climate smart agriculture as well in Pakistan.
When you talk about building the capacity of the farmers, that means provision of what to them to build their capacity?
I mean, first in terms of what is the efficient way, how the waste can be managed, or how wastage or inefficiencies can be taken care of. And second is that with the changing climate, how farmers can sow and harvest aligned with this changing weather and changing weather patterns, so that their crops being not only high yield but climate smart crops as well, because in terms of changing weather, floods are destroying their crops, and farmers should be educated in terms of climate smart agriculture as well, so that they are not only using high quality yields or mechanization, but also being made aware that weathers are changing. They should take care of that as well.
So when you talk about floods affecting their crops, so is it don't you think it has to do more with a better water management system rather than with the capacity building of the farmers?
Well, if you build the capacity of the farmers, they would be more educated, they would be more I would say receptive to the ideas, that they would be more demanding to the government that more efficient irrigation system, more efficient water management system should be built. And if I coupled with this your earlier segment's tax argument, that would bring tax money into this sort of agricultural investments, it would bring more confidence to the farmer and to the agriculture sector, so that we deal agriculture as an industry, not a very I would say inefficient or unproductive sector of Pakistan's economy.
Right, Mr. Faad, when you talk about building the capacity of the farmers, how crucial is that? How to do that?
See, it's really about speeding up to the world's pace. So farming has been going on in Pakistan since the partition of 47. So it's been passed down from generation to generation. But that really did not, educate the person or the farmer to what the growing trend was. So he hasn't really, picked up of increasing his per acre yield. So that he has to understand. It was rightly said. Back in the days, it would be sufficient for him to growing about 10 kgs per acre. But today, it's a different ball game. In the same piece of land, people are growing about a ton. So he needs to get up to the pace, and he needs to understand the climate change as well, as rightly said. We're going through a climate change phase, so our farmer has to be well informed. We have to actually, train this person. We have to bring in the technology that we lack in. If we don't have it in Pakistan, we can import it from anywhere. We're importing so many luxury goods. So why not transferring technology of the same? So, and that being said, there's also been a problem with Pakistan's research and development. We really haven't worked on, developing our own seeds. There's very few seeds that we've been able to develop in 75 years, whereas our neighboring countries have developed a lot of indigenous seeds, and they are actually exporting those. So we have to look into those pictures as well. We're actually lacking in understanding the unconventional markets throughout our region. So we have to really look upon the region. There was a time when Pakistan was self-sufficient in sugar. Today we're looking at importing sugar. So the population is growing, the land mass is the same, but where there's more yield. So we're not actually creating more yield, but we're just increasing population, and we're looking at other options of importing the same food that we could actually grow. A similar example would be cotton seed. So if we were growing cotton locally and still growing in the same pace, we would refrain from importing cotton seed oil, and that way our import bill would come down. At the same time, we wouldn't be importing cotton meal as well for the animals. So the same cotton seed would be used in textile. The same cotton seed waste would go into the cotton seed, and the byproduct of that would become the cotton meal. So everything would be integrated, but then we didn't pay attention to it. We really have to zone ourselves. We have to integrate Pakistan into different zones and allot those zones for specific agriculture activities. So if this zone is good in growing sugarcane, so it has to be sugarcane. If this zone is for olive, so it has to be olive. We have to do that. We have to bifurcate these olives.
So what about livestock?
Well, livestock is an amazing opportunity that's on the horizon, but we have to understand, we have to mark up, and we have to understand the certifications that the world offers. We are really self-sufficient in that at this point, but we do see a lot of potential in export industry. So we have to come up with the certified, slaughterhouses. We have to have the import licenses in place. We have to have buyers. So if you understand, Australia has been exporting halal meat to Indonesia, and whereas Pakistan is not exporting halal meat at all. Whereas, being a Muslim country, we already have everything halal. So, that's an added benefit that we have, but we're not looking at that because it's unconventional. We're still, mixed up and coupled with this conventional markets of the Europe and the US. We're just fantasized with them. We have to understand there's a Kars region just behind us, the Central Asian regions. They're landlocked. Pakistan is the only place that can come around. So if we actually look at them, we can provide them gateways to the world, and at the same time take benefit from this road network as well. Similar was the case with CPEC. CPEC, we already were in the game, but we're not taking benefit of it. So we have to understand these little, small markets that can bring us more money in terms of dollar that we need. And at the same time, we can come on the horizon of exporting just to our neighbors.
Right. Dr. Khalid, what sort of potential does this sector of livestock carry with itself to enhance the exports of the country?
Well, before going into the potential, one major challenge in terms of agriculture, in terms of livestock, is the informal economy, I think. We need to make agriculture, livestock as an industry. We need to treat them as a modern industry, so that mechanization, so that the modern standards are introduced to these industries. Rightly mentioned that neighboring countries and other developing countries which were lagging behind us, they are far ahead of us in terms of agriculture, in terms of per acre yield, in terms of livestock production, meat production. We are surrounded by two biggest markets in terms of demand, China and neighboring country. We can use this potential of livestock, so that but it would be a very integrated sort of journey. Not only government but the private sector should step in to make this efficient and make this work, because the demand of these livestock is growing, and it will be growing in the future as well. If we follow standards, if we integrate, if we modernize, and if we have this efficient production facilities and treat this agriculture and livestock as an industry, this would create wonders for Pakistan in terms of not only for bringing dollars into the economy, but promoting indigenization and localization of the solutions as well, along with capacity building and along with other sort of booming the industries in terms of which are linked with agriculture and which are linked with livestock as well. Second thing is that we should not import, or we should not export the I would say raw materials in terms of livestock. We should look towards the finished goods in terms of processed meat, in terms of finished dairy products as well, so that it would bring more and more revenues to the exporters.
What do the international markets demand? More of the raw material or the processed food?
Well, raw materials, in terms of if you are exporting them to the developed countries, they would require raw materials because their industry is developed, they can process the food. But what should we tap? We should tap the developing countries. You mentioned the Central Asian states or African markets or China. They would be more interested in the finished goods, and this would create more incentive for Pakistan's or local exporters.
Right. The third sector, Mr. Faad, happens to be the information technology. Perhaps we have discussed this one earlier in our shows also. Now, specifically linking it with the kind of potential the human resource has here in Pakistan. Now, training that human resource to tap the very potential that IT sector actually offers, what's required for that?
Well, with Pakistan, we're blessed with great minds in Pakistan, and if I may be right, and I would love to express this, in the past 5 years, I have seen just around me, I have seen a lot of people stepping into the IT industry as freelancers and coming up with startups, and those startups have actually succeeded, and they're getting very good seed money in the international markets. So if that being said, Pakistan is now on the brink of being understood as one of the IT hubs, because one of our neighbors is very good at it, and they've been employing a lot of Pakistanis online. So that's something that's come up. So now a lot of youth, a lot of people understanding the value of this industry, because this is the next big thing. We are here. We have to understand, we have to realize the fact, that the new technology is here. We have to go about it, or we have to be gone. So people are understanding this, the youth is understanding this. We are capacity building them. Kids here in Pakistan are being trained online with better people, with better companies, and I think this is the big thing. And this is the only place, this is the only industry where there's very little investment required, and you can bring in a lot of dollars, and in very little turnaround time. So that is something, that's going to bring in Pakistan. But we really, at the government level, we have to understand, we have to uplift these, we have to appreciate these guys in the right spot. We have to, bring in new technologies. We have to understand, crypto is everywhere. We have to understand this has to be taken as a payment policy. Somehow, we have to framework these guys.
How important is to build institutions to impart the skills and education related to IT sector among the youth in particular?
Well, I would say it's the most important thing at this point. Countries, neighboring countries and the countries in the West, they actually have think tank cells. They have proper institutions of bringing out missions. Research on this, bringing in AI. Now that the AI is here, we have to understand, how did the AI come in? The private sector based in, and the government did it. So once the government actually endorses an environment, or facilitates this, I would say, exhibit or inhibit this, that will only create the more conducive environment for working properly. And if they are being given that, they're given the platforms right, I think they can create more things.
Right, Dr. Khalid, now exploiting the potential of the youth, the kind of human resource that Pakistan has got, and also getting that very economic dividend out of information technology sector. Also, please shed some light regarding how important it is to build institutions in that particular direction to impart more skills and education among the youth to get that dividend out.
Well, 60% of population is youth. He rightly mentioned that there is an industry which is booming, but I would say we need to diversify, we need to modernize this industry as well. Back in 2016-15, when WhatsApp was purchased by the Facebook, that purchase alone was 19 billion USDs. In total foreign reserves of Pakistan, there are currently 13 billion USDs, which means that one app can make difference for Pakistan. We need to correct the direction of our youth into the IT sector, so they would be building more and more productive apps which can bring revenues to the Pakistan, foreign exchange to the Pakistan. Currently, many youngsters, they do not have the right kind of awareness. They are making assignments on Fiverr for I would say 10 or 20 bucks. What we need to do is we need to provide them awareness, we need to provide them with right direction, so that they would be building more and more foreign exchange earning revenue apps coming into the IT sector, providing the world services that they need, not the mere assignments or I would say presentations in terms of like $10 to $20. So we need to give them right direction. IT industries and other sort of institutions can incentivize, can spread knowledge and can spread the right direction to this industry, I would say very nascent industry. Second is that there were rumors that government is going to tax these freelancers and other youngsters associated with these kind of businesses. So we need to take care of that as well. No need to tax these guys. They are earning us good amount of revenue. We need to incentivize this industry. We need to give them direction. Third is that we need to promote the local talent. We need to promote the youngsters so that they can compete with the world's IT industry in terms of AI and in terms of other sort of things, because AI revolution, this would transform the economies in a way that is hitherto unimaginable. So we need to prepare our youth and prepare our students and prepare our young fellows in a way that they are more compatible in, I would say, like 10 to 20 years.
One last question, a quick short comment regarding this. Where do you identify the potential related to IT dividends? As a person, do you think he has to start from the scratch, or he has to get that skill and the training or the education related to IT or artificial intelligence right from the scratch, or if there is somebody who wants to switch over from one field to the other one. Do you think a potential for him also into this IT sector?
Well, given this pace of technology, I think there is no need to start from the scratch. Everyone can do this with the right amount of training and with the right amount of direction. There are plenty of literature and very understandable and very in a simpler way available on the internet. One can harness this potential, I would say, in 6 to 8
Your
to
quick
one
last
year.
comment, Mr. Faad. Is there a potential for somebody who is looking forward to switch?
It's very easy given in the time of technology we are, you just pick up a YouTube video, watch it for 5 minutes. My kid would start doing it. So that's something, all of our Pakistanis should do. Learn from the people who've already have this skill.
Mr. Faad, Waheed, Senior Vice President at Islamabad Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you very much for taking time out. And Dr. Khalid, Waleed, Senior Economist, associated with Sustainable Development Policy Institute. Dr. Khalid, thank you very much for your time also being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. With that, we come to the end of today's episode. Thank you for watching.